Good evening. It is 7:05 on Thursday, November 5th, 2020. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Royal Oak Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Advisory Board to order. Due to the virtual nature of the meeting, every vote we take, including the attendance, will be done by roll call. I'm going to go through just as everybody appears on my screen. Mr. Rapinski?
Here.
Commissioner Macy?
Here, I think we're supposed to also say where we are from. Is that right, Carol? So I'm here and I'm broadcasting from Royal Oak, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Also
yeah,
from
where you're at.
I'm also in Royal Oak, Michigan.
All right, Ms. Chow?
I am here and I'm also in Royal Oak.
And Ms. Kinninger?
Hi, here from Royal Oak.
And myself, Tim Jaworski, also in Royal Oak this evening. Okay, move on to the approval of the minutes from the March 3rd meeting of 2020. Those were sent to us by John. To entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, have a motion by Ms. Kinninger.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Rapinski. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to call for a vote, again in the order everyone appears on my screen. Mr. Rapinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Macy?
Yes.
Ms. Chow?
Hi.
Ms. Kinninger?
Aye.
And myself also vote yes. Okay, we're into item number 3, which is the City Commission comments. At this point, I'll turn this over to Commissioner Macy.
This is going to be brief because we only met 3 weeks ago in this body, and we've only had one City Commission meeting since that time. There wasn't a lot that I saw in that meeting that was relevant to this committee. I will say that in this recent election that just passed, the Oakland County Parks Millage did pass. So it's not directly relevant to us, but that's one of the sort of things that they do to collect money to that will go towards things, hopefully like more collaborations like this park. I'm sure we're going to hear more about the Normandy Oaks opening later in this meeting, so I won't steal any thunder on that. We did receive an email this week. I think Aaron was on this email, and I'm not sure, maybe John was as well, from Janice about reaching seniors and putting together a list. And we had sort of talked about this at our last meeting, but she had been watching some of the, I think there's an Oakland County, there's a specific Oakland County task force for seniors during the pandemic, and she had been watching some of those meetings and was talking about establishing a list. And I'm wondering, as we talk about this, kind of the outreach and the phone calls, like this is probably in fact the real step one to this, is to have a list of people that we can reach out to. And I feel confused about it because I'm not sure by what means we can establish a list. Like, I mean, we know we have voter records. We can pull from the voter registry. That's public, a matter of public record. But it won't be complete. So I guess that's something I think we should be talking about in this meeting as we go forward, thinking about how we're gonna do some more outreach as things change. I guess that's the other thing to note is that Oakland County did change the status, our COVID status, our grade from a C, which was already not great, to now an E, which is really what we all know is an F. So things are not looking great in Oakland County and the rest of Michigan, the rest of the country in terms of our COVID numbers. And so we can expect that this winter will be, as has been predicted by many experts, a rough time that we should be preparing for. So that's all I have.
And thank you, Commissioner Macy. Any questions or comments on Commissioner Macy's report? Again, thank you again, Commissioner. Moving on to item number 4, which is public comments. If you wish to make public comment, just like our in-person meetings, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. That is the standard for any city commission or committee meeting. There is I believe a raise hand icon. If you click on that, that will bring yourself to our attention and we can call on you for public comment. Then let me refer to John or Aaron real
We
quick.
do have one attendee, Janice Wagman, in the attendees room. If everyone can see that, there is no hand raised.
I'm gonna allow her to talk to see if maybe she's having difficulty with the raising the hand function really quick.
Yep.
Hi, Janice. Well, it shows you're currently on mute now, but we weren't certain if you wish to make a comment here at public comment, and maybe you weren't able to figure out how to do the hand signal. Did you have anything you'd like to add during the public comment portion? No?
Did she talk in the chat? Like, oh, she disappeared.
She's in the main room with us now.
Okay, I see her.
How do I make it back?
It appears she just has to unmute.
There she-
There, she's unmuted.
Hi, Janice. Can you hear us? Okay. John, I'm not sure how to put it back into the attendee status here.
All right, I can do that here.
I've done it.
All right.
There you go. Thank you. Also, since we have a pause, Maya had sent an email to all of us saying she didn't receive a link. I don't know if somebody could forward that to her, John.
I
I
just
took
texted.
care of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I did. I did too. I texted it to her too. So hopefully
Okay,
she'll
cool.
be joining shortly.
All right.
Going forward from this point, Ms. Wagman, if you do have something to say and you weren't able to, if you do raise your hand at any point during the meeting, we will revisit public comments. You can make comments.
If you're on your phone, it's *9 to raise your hand or *6 to unmute. Although it looks like she's unmuted, but
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye on that panel and see if she raises her hand.
Thank you, Aaron.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, which is new business. 5A is senior outreach. Turn this to Mr. Flipsky.
Yeah, since as Commissioner Macy had noted, we had just several weeks since our last meeting. We haven't gone too far in any sort of development on this. I think we had some pretty good discussion last week or last meeting regarding this. You know, as somebody did mention the Boy Scouts, and as it were, I had somebody reach out to us about installing a little free library. And while I had the person on the phone, I said, hey, you know, service projects might be something that you guys consider. Would this person be interested? And this particular individual didn't have the interest in it. They already had plans for it. They said Boy Scouts would consider it, along with those other service groups. But he tended to believe, at least that he thought, that there was a preference for building sort of something that was, you know, a real structure somehow. That was the real interest, but that didn't they didn't close the door to that. So I think whatever which way we go with this, we can chase that one down a little bit as well. You know, and listening to Commissioner Macy's comments as well earlier today about how we go about even establishing that list. I think as we discussed previously, we do have some contact information from people that had interacted with the seniors center, but we sort of have to respect that they gave that information in relation to that activity. That said, you know, I think that group of peers might know best who may need somebody to call them, or maybe may need somebody that needs that support. And maybe it's worth putting a call out on our social media to at least start to say, look, if we're looking to build a support network, and we're looking for people that you think might fit well for that or benefit from that, and see what sort of response we can get from there. And maybe that's a start. But beyond that, that's all I have to report on senior outreach since our last meeting.
I can piggyback on Aaron real quick. If we look at our Facebook page, I have the admin rights to it, so I can probably see some stuff that majority of other people can't see. But we are getting a pretty good engagement and people reached on our Facebook page through pretty much all of our posts. I mean, some of our posts are going to have small outreaches, and majority of them have large ones. We posted something on November 2nd about the virtual fundraiser for Tim's Kitchen. That has had a strong outreach. Just one post itself reached 747 people and had 35 engagements. There was multiple posts regarding that specific item that average, I would say, about 80 to 100 people reached. And then just today and yesterday, we posted something about area aging, Oakland County Senior Pop-Up Drive-Through Pantry, and that received 1,600 people reached. That was posted November 3rd. And then we had a post about Bassett Park that has actually seen the highest people reached without having any sort of page boost or production of 5,000 people and 1,000 engagements. So, you know, we're hitting a lot of avenues out there to reach our residents through Facebook. So the digital media, social media, and then through print. So trying to cover every aspect as we can.
Commissioner Macy.
Yeah, I think that's great. I do think, I mean, part of the concern is that it's not necessarily reaching the senior group, which is what we're targeting for this specific outreach. I mean, I sort of like Erin's idea about doing some kind of outreach on Facebook to start, because the barrier is so low that if we can start to build a list at that point, like the effort on our end is fairly low, and then we can use that list to build, like, who else can you reach out to, other people who you think might be on this list, and at least we'll have something to start with. And then we can possibly combine it with the list that we already have at City Hall and, you know, update as necessary. Janice mentioned like her number was wrong in the list that we had at City Hall. So like using that information to kind of to get started, I think is a good idea. I wonder, so like on Facebook ads, if you boost an ad, you can target certain populations. So I wonder if we could target, like, you know, seniors in the Royal Oak and surrounding areas, and see if we can, if that would be something to get started. So, you know, I thought, again, I didn't know we're going to meet so soon, but the Interclub Council, I did ask Judy today. They normally meet on the first Fridays of the month, but she said they're meeting virtually now. She said she would forward me an invitation to the next one of those. And I think hopefully that's where we're going to be able to enlist some people to really engage and hopefully volunteer to take on some of the work of this, because it's going to be a lot of work. Anyway, so I think that's, I wanted to ask a bit about the, like, well, how did you picture, Erin, what kind of information did you picture capturing on the social media post? Like, were you actually wanting to say, hey, if you want to be contacted, or you want check-ins, fill out this information here? Or is it more like, hey, if you'd be interested in contacting people as part of this outreach effort, like, are you trying to reach the volunteers or the people themselves?
Well, that's a good point you bring up, Commissioner Macy. I guess both, really. We would also want to try to recruit the people that would help make some of those phone calls and those connections. But I guess what I was intending was just to lay out there what we're trying to do. So we're not going to claim to say we have a network now and we want to try to get this going. Just lay it out and say we want to get it started. Can you help us? And refer some folks that you think might want this, you know, or there might need that sort of little bit of extra attention or whatever it might be. So I guess that was sort of it. Before we even have a network or a solid framework, just gauge the interest on it and find out how many people are willing to say, yes, I have a loved one that could use that, or so-and-so that I know I haven't seen at, you know, our weekly virtual meetups or something. And they might sort of tip us off to that. And I guess it remains to be seen. We can see how that builds from there. But I think gauging the interest in it and to find out if there is, in fact, this need for it. Should there be a need, even if it's on, you're right, it's not, sorry for 1 second, even if it's not, Facebook isn't the most common platform for the audience we're trying to reach. It is for their loved ones and friends to some degree. So.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So great. And I think I like the idea of capturing both sides of this coin. And I wonder if we could make it into if we could make it like a tiny URL that was memorable, which I mean, I think Judy has the ability to do this, like, rome.gov/senior outreach or something like that. It would be nice if we could also in the next round of water bills, send at least like a little slip of paper that says, if you would like to be contacted, or if you would like to be part of the outreach, like, here's the URL, please, register yourself, or anyone you think, anyone you talk to who would like the service, because I think we've talked about before, right, that's the one way that we have to reach literally all the residents, is that we send them all water bills. So I think, yeah, that seems like that would be a way to expand to the next step.
Or I would go a step further. I'm sorry, through the chair to Commissioner Macy. The other option is to take out an ad. It would be at a small cost because we wouldn't have the revenue from it, but we could use, for example, like the back page of the quarterly newsletter. Thereby, we already have that cost. It's more or less free at that point, because it's surprisingly expensive, believe it or not, to put leaflets into water bills. So yeah.
My concern with the water bills would be, I feel like there's a lot of seniors who live in locations that wouldn't receive a water bill. I think there's a lot
I was just going to ask, is like Barton
in-
Towers?
Barton Towers is an example. I don't
Right.
believe they would get an individual water bill. So we'd be sending these things to non-seniors. I do think everybody does get that magazine though, which I think would be a great idea.
Fully
I like
agree.
the magazine, and I think if we decide to do the water bills, we could still do that. Then we replicate some type of flyer or some kind of handout in Barton Towers and print those and provide them to the management company to hand out in that specific those two specific locations. I mean, I think being creative about it. I think as long as it's consistent, I think we have multiple ways of doing that.
Thank you. Mr. Rapinski?
Yeah, in lieu of the water bill for the Barton Towers, the other high-rise senior housing, and then we also have a few assisted living facilities in Royal Oak, and then there's also the senior housing on 13. I can't think of Royal Oak Village, I believe it's called. Could there be a special handout that would be provided to those facilities that they could give to all their residents, or something in a community bulletin board or something? Because there is a high concentration of seniors, as Sarah had pointed out, in these locations. And if they, the water bill is not an answer, maybe we could reach them with some directed either printed material or bulletin board material or some other announcement. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what Sarah was saying that too. Like if we had some flyers for the places that don't get water bills or whatever, or even if they do, like even if we are sending out Insight, like we might as well have these flyers. And Mike points out that there's other places that other than those two towers, and I think that is true and a good idea. Oh shoot! Now I forgot the thing I was actually going to say.
I got something I can fill in some time here.
Okay, good. Do it.
The one consideration for water bills is that even if you do receive a water bill, so many people put it on automatic withdrawal that they might not even open their water bill. Some people just out of habit don't. It's just paid for and they're done with it.
That was perfect because that reminded me. I was going to ask you what the cost is for an insert into a water bill versus like a little postcard.
I can find out. I don't know.
I think we've talked about the water. Was it like 12,000 or something?
Yeah.
it was like more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
The water
it
bill, I
was
think
for
we're
that
like-
range. Now there is an option where you can the post office offers where you choose a particular mail route. So if we found that maybe there were just a concentration in a certain area that we wanted to target, you could at a relatively more affordable price do like a postcard, and rather than have that go through the mail system, it's just assigned out to the carrier on that route. And apparently, as it works, they can talk with their other colleagues and split it up with other routes within the city. And the idea is that a lot of these mail carriers, they know who might need it. And so they just keep them in their sack with them and would put them in a door or in the mail if they thought. So that's the possibility.
Yeah.
Judy Davids spoke with me about that, and we can we can follow up on that too. So something to consider.
Commissioner Macy, I sent out flyers one year for the art fair, and that was about $6,000. It hit all the houses that the Insight sent. So I think your range is anywhere between 6,000 to 13,000.
Okay. It's
Depending on
not
what,
cheaper to do it in the water bill. It just seems like it should be.
You think
Depending
so,
on
but then
what-
there's somebody that has to, there's a company that
Yeah.
actually processes those and stuffs it, so you pay sort of for that part of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have it printed on the bill itself?
You can, but there's very limited space, and we have our lead and copper message on there now, not taking that out.
Okay. Nope. Just trying to think of solutions.
Yeah.
Could we insert a whole nother page into the water bill so that we're not actually stuffing things into them? We're just adding another page.
Well, what about the envelope?
That's a good call.
Question. I don't know if we provided envelopes that had a message on. I mean, I don't know. That's a good, because there it's right in your face, you know.
And it
Just
solves the
saying that
problem
people
about people who don't open.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
Or for people, like I had a friend whose wedding got postponed for years, so they had to save the date, and then they gave us little things to change the date to stick over it. Even if it's like a label over an envelope. I don't know.
Mhm.
It probably goes back to, I think probably printing it on the envelope is cheaper than having somebody adhere another label. I'm guessing the label is the same thing as stuffing it in the envelope. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when it comes into manual, somebody having to manually do something extra is probably exponentially what increases the cost versus I can just program the machine to say print all of this.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know. That's just my guess.
But yeah, so as I see it, we would, if we can move on something like this, at least put the feelers out, we can sort of see what gauge what kind of interest we have. And once we start establishing a list, go from there. I don't think we should make plans on how we should go about that first. I think we should just put some feelers out there and see what happens.
When does the next insight go out, John?
Just missed it.
So I thought.
the actual publishing data was just missed. It's going to go out November, like the week right before Thanksgiving.
So what are we looking at? We're looking at the middle of winter.
Calendar real quick here, just to give
Sure.
you guys an idea of where the next issue would come out. That would be the spring one.
You folks have to excuse me for 1 second. I have to step aside. I'll be right back.
Okay,
My
so
guess is, go ahead.
So I will be emailing department heads and everyone for material on January 5th. So after the holidays for the spring issue. The materials would be due February 6th timeframe with a mailing date of March 6th.
Feels kind of late. I'm not gonna lie.
I
Like,
agree.
I just feel like that misses the whole point of why we're doing this. So seems like, when do water bills go out? Do we know that?
They go out quarterly, like it depends. Not everybody gets them at the same time. But here's what I'm thinking too, is that, so like $6,000, fine, it's not in the budget, but it's only $6,000. And if this is pandemic related, we can include it in some of the costs. I mean, we're getting money from the county. We're getting more money from the county, I think. And this seems like exactly the type of thing that this fund should be used for, is to create a new service that wasn't provided but is needed due to the pandemic. So, but even if it weren't, I feel like $6,000, because I totally agree with Sarah. I don't think we can wait till March.
I also like the idea that Aaron was talking about, is looking into, maybe we do a combination of water bills that are coming out during a certain time. Like we target a specific amount or whatever, and then working with the mail carriers on just having them have like that postcard that's available or something to hand out to the doors that they know that would be benefit from it. Because, and probably the social media, kind of taking a multi-tiered approach, because I think social media will hit a certain percentage, mail, like water will hit another, but then we also have the people that may not have, maybe on auto pay, that aren't on social media. And I think we've established for quite some time now that the seniors aren't always using the technology that others are. So how can we best reach them? And it seems like post office is a good opportunity there.
I want to make a comment on the direct mail piece thing John was referring to before. We've used that for our real estate business. Not on a large scale, but on, directed to certain neighborhoods, certain mail routes that we wanted to target with the marketing piece. We found that and I know this is a real touchy subject these days, but that some mail carriers were not as diligent, that multiple copies would end up in one mailbox just so they could get rid of their allotment, because they're not addressed to anybody in particular. They're just to mail route customer, or don't even have a name on it. It's just a piece. So again, you're at the mercy of the integrity of the mail carriers, and unfortunately, they don't always do what they're supposed to do.
So the flyers that were sent out for the art fair about 2 years ago for 6,000, that was sent to the addresses that the insights go to. So they do get was that post stamp, postmarked, or something to actual addresses instead of an actual route. So that may be a little bit better, but I do understand where you come from, Mike. I mean, I get doubles all the time, so.
The mail route approach is much more cost effective, but again, you're taking a chance that not everybody's going to get them that should get them.
Commissioner Macy, going back to what you said about getting some of the funding because it's COVID related, I wonder if there's any opportunity outside of just once we kind of have our plan in place, is there potential for funds to help support this?
So yeah, I think we can put in the budget, but I also think we won't necessarily need to, right? Like we're trying to establish a list, and I don't think we'll need to send it out every year, because then we can use the insight to supplement the list, and we can use like the senior newsletter. Like there are other ways that we can get this out once we. So in other words, I do think there's information that we want to get out regularly, but we're trying to find out who that list of people is. It's not going to be the whole population of Royal Oak once we start targeting correctly.
And I think I was thinking more of like once we get the list and then we come up with a program, and then like the program specific stuff more so, because I know like Aaron and John have expressed that like this is not necessarily something that like the team, the city team can take on from like a bandwidth perspective. So like yes, I agree. Like once we have the list, it's going to be great information and we can continue to use it. But I guess I was trying to think of like once we have that, the programmatic things that we're thinking about potentially doing.
So for the last 2 years, I've tried to get a volunteer coordinator, at least part-time, added to city staff. I have been unsuccessful, but please feel free when the budget strategy sessions come around to email City Commission and tell them how it would be, it's a critical need for the city. Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, like Judy and Carol do a lot of this work, and it's not their job. I mean, they have enough. Sure. They have enough work to do that doesn't. So we really could use someone for that, at least part-time position. In my view.
Yeah, and I think nothing has shown us more than how to be prepared for things like, maybe it's not a volunteer coordinator, maybe it's like a program specialist, right? So then they could potentially support Judy and Carol with some other things. So maybe that volunteer coordinator is a too narrow of scope, but that's they work on that 75% of their time, but then they can, do stuff at the farmer's market and other things that Judy and Carol are doing to help supplement that. So maybe that's an approach to take that's a little more creative, that might have more reception.
Love that. That's good.
Hey, just out of curiosity, Aaron and Commissioner Macy, do we still have the fellows?
I don't think Paul has had any fellows yet. We need to tell Paul to get some fellows.
Because I mean, in lieu of a volunteer coordinator, that may be something that the fellows can take on. Just
not to belittle this, but fellows are interns essentially.
Yeah, although some of them are like post-grad.
Okay.
I mean, like,
but they're looking for experience.
Right. I mean, so okay. I actually did So the second, oh, I can't remember. One of the times that I asked for volunteer coordinator to get one, I talked to Don Johnson about it, and I suggested using a fellow. He wasn't super enthusiastic about it. I can't remember if he was like that this wasn't the kind of experience that they were looking for, or just I think he just needed them for the projects. But my hesitancy about using a fellow is that it's like then they leave, right? So you have them for 3 months, and then we have this ongoing need, and someone either has to pick up the pieces or it just ends. So I'd really like to have someone. Oh, see there, Carol says we have no fellows.
Yeah, we had a
Tell us.
fellow for the task force, the Aging in Place task force. And definitely one of the challenges was she had done all this great work, and then where does it get stored and how do we get access to it if she's the person that was kind of driving some of our reporting efforts and things like that. So I can see that definitely that shortened period of time can be a challenge from a sustainability and scalability perspective.
So can Aaron and John, can I put a meeting on with you guys for next week? Like I have some ideas to get this, and like just to get something launched, to get this initial survey out, and then at least we'll have something to work with the next time we meet.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
a good
possible?
idea. Let's work, tomorrow or something, setting up a date, a good date for everybody, and we can do that. And one last thing to add, just to this conversation before we close it out, it was brought to my attention too, and I knew this, but to a certain extent, we can use CARES Act money for some of this stuff. I don't know if you guys talked about that while I had stepped out or not, but there's that as well.
Yeah, that's the CARES Act is the COVID money.
Mhm.
So I said that.
Oh, okay.
I said lots of things. I said we're going to spend all your money on this, Aaron.
Okay. So what happened when I step away, huh?
I tried to get it not just for mailing stuff. I tried to get it for the program itself as well, Aaron, so that we could support all of it. But mailing started the whole thing, the ball rolling.
That's right.
I wonder if anybody knows if there's a governmental database, much like Melanie, you and I know, that there's very specific targeting you can do to reach a very precise kind of person. Is there something that the city would have access to?
I know the AARP has some of that data because we have to use it for a report for our Aging in Place task force at some point when we get back to that.
Is that data that they've collected on their own somehow through like whatever
Yeah.
their needs might be?
Is
I
it
can-
demographic data or personal contact information?
I think it's combination. I can ask our contact at AARP if you're looking for something. If you want to send me what you want me to ask her, I'm happy to reach out to her and see what they have access to. I'm not making any promises, but I know they have access to demographic data around our senior population because they knew that when we started the project.
Carol just commented that SEMCOG might have that kind of information. And I think Shar Douglas is still the city's liaison for SEMCOG. Is that true, Melanie? You know if Char's still?
Char's still active in it. I didn't know that she was officially our liaison, but she for sure will be able to.
Yeah, that's my assessment of it. But anyway, maybe that's an avenue we can pursue.
And there's tons. I think this is what Sarah was referring to. There's tons of data mining companies out there. Like you can pay someone to come provide you this information. It's like, they know everything about us. So I think Tim's right that probably the government has this information somewhere too. We just need to figure out how we can access it.
And I have a question for John. When looking through the Facebook page, can you maybe just by looking at people, you probably have to do it that way. But can you tell what percentage of those people are actually seniors that are active or doing those posts?
Well, here, let me
Maybe the only way I think you could probably do is like look at someone's picture and say they look like they're
let me
50.
share my screen with you guys so you can see what I'm looking at
Okay.
on our Facebook. So this was, sorry for any sort of motion sickness that goes on as I scroll. Okay, so let's say this one was 747 people reached. View breakdown.
This the city have any kind of budget to do any kind of like paid boosting of Facebook or any of that kind of stuff?
I mean, when I've done just minor boosting, I've just, charged $20 and I charge it to, our program supplies type thing. $20 actually goes a long way with,
Yeah, that's cool. Just thought I'd ask.
I don't, without getting too much into the weeds, it looks like I have to create some sort of manager studio. So I don't know. I don't know if I have that answer for you, Tim, right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But when I do advertise stuff, I can point to certain demographics. So I can point to interests. Anyone that likes recreation, anyone that likes, physical activities, anyone that likes yoga, anyone that likes, farmers market, stuff like that. Anything there's interest out there, I can point the ads to. So that is something that we can do as well.
Interesting.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on senior outreach? No? All right, thank you. Moving on to item 5B, which is the tentative opening plan for indoor activities.
Yeah, so staff and I have been working on trying to develop a plan to have some sort of reopening of our Salter Center and Senior Center. The ice arena is currently open and operating at 25% capacity when ice arenas were allowed to operate. The challenge is the amount of people that we can essentially house at a certain time for the Salter and Senior Center. Ice arena, with having larger capacity, can have a game going on each rink at the same time and still be well with under the 25% capacity. So that's kind of how they are working the system. With the Salter Center, 80 people max capacity at 25%, and the Senior Center has 95 people max capacity. So the plan right now is, providing that nothing else digresses, and, cross our fingers that, we can get out of the weeds here and our capacity limits increase. But the plan right now is to limit our class sizes. Some of the rooms that we have classes in, they can hold about 50, and we're going to pretty much be reducing them to like 20 participants, some even to 12 participants as the class sizes are a little bit, classroom is a little bit smaller. And by doing that, we may just have to shift some schedules around. We may not have as many classes that we have offered in the past. We may have classes going on at different times that they normally were, or different days that we normally were. But it's going to be a challenge, especially with the low amount. If we were to have, multiple classes going on, but just in different rooms, what does that give us at the end of the day? And that includes also staffing that's in there as well. So that's just what we have going on right now. I know coming up, our centers have been heating centers. And that proposes a little bit of a challenge because everything class-wise that would open up, if it does open up in January, everyone would have to essentially check themselves as participated in the class that day for contact tracing. So if I took a yoga class, there's a sheet that has my name on there, and every time I go into that yoga class, I need to check and make sure and check and say, yes, I was in that class, just in case there happens to be an incident. We know who was in that class at that time and so forth. So we can do that with but as a warming shelter, it proposes a little bit more of a challenge because people can come and go. Whereas with a class, we know people were in there from 6 to 7 and so forth and vice versa. So there's that. I just purchased 3 electrostatic foggers. Machines are kind of like a handheld drill, but they spray out disinfectant material. Pretty cool. So we can go through all of our classes and essentially disinfect classes in 10 minutes. So part of opening is a longer period in between classes to prevent any sort of congregating, because usually there's like a 5-minute window, and so we're increasing that to 15 minutes. So you do your class, the class is over, you get out, you don't congregate, and then that gives you time. This gives us time to disinfect the room, and then have the new class come in. So there's a lot of protocols going on that we're working on at this moment. So.
If I could, I'd just add to that. Obviously, you know, we're taking an optimistic view on some of it. We're fully aware that we're headed into what experts say is going to be potentially a very, very troublesome winter. So everything John just said, we're still eyeing on where we stand from a public health standpoint as well. So we are closely following that. But we want to be ready. So when we do it, so I wouldn't want these plans to be taken as we are not aware that we're sort of have a winter creeping up on us that could be pretty bad. We totally have our eyes on that always, but we want to be able to move ahead with this if things are somewhat okay.
Sarah?
Are we requiring a mask?
Yes. So any participant that is, you know, obviously we're going to have X marks or whatever, 6 feet apart, and they are required to wear masks.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner
Maya,
Mason?
go ahead.
Would these be the classes for the seniors at the senior center?
Pardon?
Is that the classes at the senior center? Is that what you guys are talking about?
Yeah. So we have classes at the Senior Center and at the Salter Center, which is on Lincoln. So these would be a standard set of rules across the board for all of our facilities. The ice arena is following all their protocols that the state and local authorities have issued for hockey and figure skating and learn to skate programs and all that good stuff. So this would be a standard across the board.
Commissioner Macy.
So I feel a little concerned about the warming centers. So we are going to be able to do that, we think? I feel like we need to have something somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is to try to open them up. I'm just concerned with how do we contact trace. It's a little bit more challenging than a particular class. We know who's registered for the class. We know who's signed up for it. Yes, we can do the sign-in sheet for those who come into the warming shelter, but some may not have telephone numbers. Some may not have emails. We may not have a way to contact them. Some come in for 20 minutes and then they leave and then they come back. So it can be done, just proposes a little bit more challenges than our classes would.
Commissioner Macy, is it my understanding that it seems to be the will of the commission that we want that this winter? That's, I mean, because that makes the difference. I mean, you know, I know there had been interest in it. We want to look into it, and if that's the case and that's where it's headed, then we look into it in a more serious way. And we would do this anyway, but meet with some other folks, our peers in other communities, who could provide us some advice on that, or maybe hear what some of their plans are, because I'm sure those are similar concerns. There's a lot that there's a lot of risk involved in that, I guess, not just for the people that come in, everybody else in the city generally. So, but knowing if that's where it's at, for sure, we'll take that directive.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about this board or the city commission.
I guess you can't speak for the city commission entirely, but
I can't entirely, although the people that I've talked to about this are definitely would prioritize like some sort of a warming shelter space. Like, these are our most vulnerable residents, and of course, we need to be able to take care of them.
Mhm. Yeah, we can be back with some more information by our next meeting, having looked into it and studied the feasibility of it a little bit more. We can do that for next meeting.
Do we know if it's supposed to be a really harsh winter this year? I'm not that we shouldn't be looking at this. I'm just wondering, like, what we need to be prepared for outside of COVID. I mean, just weather-wise.
Well, according to the Farmer's Almanac and El Nino,
Yes.
it's supposed to be hard.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how much to.
Yeah.
I don't know if
appreciate it. We can't
I'm not a
predict
betting
it.
man on weather, so I can't.
No, but I mean, just knowing that
Yeah.
it's 2020. I'm confident I'm sure there'll be something that we have not ready for.
Yeah.
I don't know about winter, but the first week of November and late fall is looking pretty good.
True.
Yeah. Although there was snow in the UP in mid-October when I was driving up there, so.
We ran into it last weekend going to Chicago.
Yeah.
Heavy whiteout snow flurries on I-94.
Wow. Well,
All right.
so speaking of weather, are we good with John's report? Do we have any more? Because I wanted to report on, as Macy said, the preview that we gave for Normandy Oaks Park on Halloween. Oh, go
I
ahead.
have one more question about the reopening of the senior center or Salter
It's not
combined.
it's all of them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
both of them.
vestibule is the only one that's currently open as far as facility-wise goes. So it would be the senior and Salter, and the senior and Salter, I believe, are the only or two of the recreation facilities that are warming centers
Okay.
that are under my control.
So when John, you say want to open for classes, what are your or the Parks and Recs department's requirements for reopening? Is it a phase 4 by the state? Are you more along the lines of the Oakland County letter grade system?
I'm looking for a phase 5 type of reopening. I can get away with we can get away with a phase 4 with a increased capacity, maybe a 50% capacity. A 25% capacity with 80 people and in the Salter and then 90 some odd people in the senior center. Mathematically, if we had 2 classrooms going, we would be anywhere between 50 and 60 people. Because one room you can fit, about 35 people. And in one room you can fit about 12 to 14. So, and you figure in 2 staff. So, yeah, but is operating 2 classes logistically worth it? You probably would have to have 4 classes going at a given time. And then that's when you start getting into that capacity threshold. Maybe we can do 4 classes and then, people are still lenient on, doing classes at the time. So we never actually hit the max room size that we can do at 25% capacity. So rather than having, 35 people comfortably 6 feet apart in a room, we have 15 going. And then, we have 8 in the other room. And then we have 10 in another room and vice versa. I mean, the rooms are spread apart enough where they're not going to kind of collude or coincide. And then even with the 15 minutes, that gives them plenty of time to not congregate or kind of meet in the middle. So there's just a lot of variables, to take into consideration and look at.
I mean, is it your opinion that the benefits outweigh the risk of running 2 classes at a time? And personally, I don't see that as being a benefit compared to the possible risk of.
Yeah, if I'm running 2 classes, I don't know if I would pursue opening them. I'd like to get everyone to do indoor recreation because it's going to be a long winter.
Sure.
Especially with um, these cases rising and more people may be stuck inside how they were closer to March, April timeframe. Recreation activities gives an escape for people. There's a lot of talks about, depression going on, loneliness. So, I mean, recreation's a good spot for people to get out and interact with people, rather than, looking at a TV screen 24 hours a day or a computer screen 24 hours a day. So, my heart is like, yeah, we gotta try to do this, but my heart is also saying, we gotta be smart about this, and we can't just put our residents at risk, and even put our staff at risk as well. So,
Are there recreational things that we can do to embrace winter? I mean, like, I'd like think cross country skiing or like snowshoeing, or maybe we have dog sled demonstrations. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like winter. Well, you never know. I was just watching a show about dog sledding. So like, I appreciate that Royal Oak might not be quite the path for them, but I'm just trying to think of like things that we do in the winter that, we do have some larger parks that maybe it's not super great, but like it still allows us to be outside and people would be dressed for it, which is lower risk than being in a facility, I guess is all I was saying.
Yeah, and that's something that we're looking into as well. I know we had a lot of outside classes, and as you know, this is kind of an anomaly this week with the weather being warmer. But in the weeks where the climate was not so friendly, the participation levels were low, just because nobody wanted to do yoga outside when it was 40 degrees, 30 degrees. But it doesn't mean we can't do cross country somewhere. Memorial Park is a good spot. I know they do cross country out there as it is, so that may be a good spot for.
Or the golf course, maybe we could have cross country on the golf course.
So a little historical perspective here from the old guy in the group. We did do cross country skiing at the golf course many years ago. It was run as an extra concession, like the golf course management. Somebody came in on an agreement, provided all the equipment, rental fees, everything. They staked out the perimeters of the golf course. I think it was just the 13-mile course. And it didn't last, mainly because of the freeze and thaw cycles and the lack of snow. And we weren't able to manufacture snow. I'm telling you, this was probably 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. And it just never got any traction.
Yeah, it's a good point, Mike, you bring that up, because we had our staff made outdoor ice arenas, but if it doesn't snow or it doesn't freeze hard enough, then it thaws out, and you have to do that. We can plan for a snowball fight at Warden Park, but if there happens to be no snow at the time of the event. It's just stuff like that.
I had a discussion, I didn't mean to interrupt. I had a discussion with Lee on our team at DPS. He is the one that, when the DPS built one, I think a couple of years in a row, I already spoke with him earlier this year about that. And I said, you want to do it? If we get the weather, let's do it 100%. So it's there, but it really we have to count on the weather. It has to be solid cold. And we have not had that. It's been like just mushy warm some
We did, so Aaron, we did it at Grant Park for a couple of years. That's Lee and one of the other guys from DPS were took on their own time, and when it was cold enough, it was great. Then one year they also had it on the city property, which is now part of the parking lot next to the new city offices. But it got used when it was cold enough, but it was down more than it was operational.
Yeah.
I wonder if we take the approach of like more like workshops or like one-day things instead of like classes that are so dependent on the weather. And I appreciate that, yes, like you need like but if we could just teach people how to do snowshoeing when the weather permits, I guess, maybe take that kind of approach and have it be more like one-time events. I just try to be creative, John, because I appreciate the diligence that you're putting into this and really trying to draw out people and think about how important recreation is going to be. So I'm just trying to be creative, but I'm sure you've already thought of all of these things.
Yeah, I'm open to anything. If you guys come across something, just shoot me a message and, look into it.
I like Sarah's ideas, having like an educational thing where, you could teach it when we have the opportunity with the weather, and, it could be spur of the moment, but, just be ready to go, have some volunteer instructors or whoever that can step in and say, hey, we're getting heavy snow this weekend. We'll be providing, how to snowshoe or how to cross country ski on Sunday, or, I think it bears keeping in mind. I like the idea, Sarah.
Yeah, I do too.
Commissioner Macy?
Mike said part of exactly what I was going to say would be like, let's just be flexible and have it happen. And I wonder if like maybe it even makes sense to block out a time like Saturday afternoons. We're going to see what the weather looks like, and like then on Thursday we'll say, okay, this week we're going to do snowshoeing because that's what we're having, or like instead this week we're going to do a nature walk and look for I don't know, what do you look for in the winter?
And I was just going to say, have we reached out to the Nature Society and asked if there's anything that we could do around, our nature trails or something like that,
Yeah, I have, and we've been talking about that in earnest as of late, because they actually run a lot of their programming, a lot of very fascinating, informative nature walks that they do, but they advertise it themselves. And it's like, hey guys, let me know when you're going to do that. And they get pretty decent turnout. But they for sure could boost that. So I don't know why we haven't, but we will. And yes, those are the opportunities. They do that more in the summer. I would say they do the walks, but we partner with them, show them that we want to do it. I'm sure they would want to participate as well.
I think we take this all with a grain of salt, that all of this participation and all of these things, there wasn't necessarily a global pandemic where people were really at the point of like, anything's better than sitting in my house longer, like, because I'm going, like, the walls are starting to cave in. So I can kind of appreciate that this is a little bit different approach, and that these creative things, we may see an increased attendance, and it may not work another year, but I think having those creative, flexible ideas shows that we're at least thinking through those things and really valuing the opportunities to help give our residents something to think about, at least, even if they don't participate, they know that we're offering those things up.
Good, Commissioner Macy.
I can't stop thinking about that snowball fight idea that John said about Warden. So I also feel like we should be flexible enough to like day by day. Like I think it would be incredible if like one Friday after it had snowed, you sent out a thing was like, okay, 48067 versus 48073, meet at Warden Park. We're doing it. Like I think I don't know. I think having really flexible and having those kind of opportunities, people would jump right on that, and they would love it. So anyway, I can't stop thinking about that. But I wanted to get back to like a long time ago when you were talking about like 2 classes not being worth it. I mean, I feel like part of what we're trying to do is like break back into this space. So maybe 2 classes is worth it. Like, are you talking about like that financially doesn't make sense, or like, is there some way we can do to support it? Or are you saying just like the risk, it doesn't make sense? I just feel like maybe if 2 classes is the max that we think we can safely manage, maybe it is worth it to try that, because at least we're offering something, and it's like getting us back into the groove for when we're ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of everything. Financially, having a staff member sit there for 2 classes, turning the lights on the building, having the heat going on for 2 classes, it's something that, I just starting to look into all this tentative planning stuff. That's something that, I need to look further into. And maybe it's 3 classes is the break even point. And in that case, then yeah, we'll run classes at a break even point, obviously. And then there's also, I don't think with 2 classes going on, there's, I don't want to say not much of a risk factor, because there is going to be a risk there's a risk going to the grocery store, so, but with two classes going on, you can separate them more and you can offset the time. So I wouldn't say it's more of like a risk situation, but more logistically and feasibility, financial wise.
Because if it's financial, I think this is another thing we could use that CARES funding for, like to support our senior center during this time. I think that's a totally legitimate use of these funds. So I'm just,
Yeah.
I just would love to see this going on. The other thing I was wondering about was like, could we do classes in the farmer's market? Are there times during the day when the farmer's market isn't being utilized right now that we could?
It'd be
I don't
tough, I mean, because it'd be hard to schedule anything because they do have periodically things
Yeah.
kind of randomly throughout the day. And then if not, it seems like every time I go in there during the day, they're prepping something or getting something ready. There's always some sort of activity going on, but that's not out of the question. And that might be, depending on, how that would function. I mean, that might be something that market managers would be really interested in, actually. So that I'll ask the question.
I think the bigger risk comes if they start to be used as warming, if we combine the classes and the warming center. So like, I think that's where I see the largest amount of risk, John. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, two classes. I go to the gym every morning. So I get that like you can just throw your mask on, stagger the times, but then now you start to create, which we need, these warming centers, and there it becomes a little bit more challenging.
Yep.
And a little bit riskier.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it can't be solved.
Right.
I gotta let my cat in before she claws her way through my door. Hold on 1 second.
All right. Under comments, there's suggestions on our tentative reopening plan for indoor activities. That's we'll check with Commissioner Macy when she gets back, but. No, did you have anything else on or for discussion on this item?
No, I guess I want to give my support to starting these classes, even if it's in a smaller capacity if we can, and if what we need to find is funding, like let's try to find it. I think that's something we can look for.
Okay. Like with that, we'll move on to item 5C, which is the department report.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I was so excited to tell you guys about the October 31st event, the Halloween event at Normandy Oaks Park. We wanted to have a preview, a limited preview, obviously because of COVID, and have a certain amount of folks here. It filled up really quick. Judy Davids put out the sign up, and within less than a day, it was completely booked. But we had it set up where we had some dignitaries early on from Oakland County and from Royal Oak, and then we allowed the public to tour through the park. It's really no more fluff than that. Just kind of here, come walk around. We dialed it up a little bit because it's in a state of construction currently. We gave them a swag bag and more or less just let them wander. And it seemed to be that people really enjoyed themselves. There was a lot of excitement. People were really pumped. And, I've learned that Royal Oakers are some of the more patient folks around, because there's folks that would consistently reminded me how long the park's taken. But that aside, they're thinking it's like a fine wine, right? The longer it takes to develop, it'll be a better park or something. So anyway, there was a lot of excitement. We were happy. We couldn't have asked for better weather, which doesn't really happen on Halloween, as we all know. So I was glad for that. And I'm really excited for the spring when we can have a bigger actual grand opening. That's a big celebration. So I'll keep you up to date on that. The other stuff we were talking about, working with Boy Scouts. There's a Boy Scout group that is working with the Nature Society at Ten Have Woods. As the trails through there, there's some spots in the spring that they can't get through because it's really, really wet. So DPS is donating a whole bunch of good, clean sand. And this Boy Scout is going to lay it out and make that park, those trails more passable. So we're really appreciative that they're doing that work and making it more accessible for everybody. And what else do I have? John, do you got anything?
Just that Bassett Park, the crews are out there putting that up. So You guys saw some of the pictures on Facebook, and I will say I've gone out there, and the actual equipment itself looks very realistic as far as uh, tree trunks and whatnot. But it's still a construction site, so they'll go out there and play around on it. The 4 parks that were under CDBG improvements this year have finally been completed. And so we're just working on Lawson and Franklin Park for this year. All these years are kind of blending together. So yeah, so it'll be this year. So this upcoming spring will be Lawson and Franklin. I think that's, I mean,
I got the dog park situation. So that control, I knew that was coming, Sarah. Beat you to the punch. So the dog park controller has been updated. There was some time for this thing to get ordered. It's actually a piece of hardware that had to be installed. Took some time to get and to install, so it's installed. It's working. The problem is there are still some that if your fob expired during the period of time that it was out, or you got a new one, there were some issues with it. And that can all get fixed with the clerk's office if there's any issues with that. But as you know, they kind of had a thing going on the last little while that they've been prepping for. Something. Yeah. So give them a little bit of time to wind down from that, and they'll be able to begin processing those and updating those. So I know I appreciate your patience in this.
Yeah, I think we need to probably pick a kind of a deadline to lock the gates. We have a lot of new members that don't even understand that there is a fob system.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to prevent like anarchy at the park, because I feel like there's a lot of members that are want to say something but they don't. And so like I just want to make sure, like, if you can give us like a little bit of time so we can post on Facebook to like when not to let people in, Aaron, I think that would be really appreciated. So
well, it
like
should work. Does it not work now for people with active non-expired fobs? It should.
Right.
So
but we haven't locked the small gate, so people are still coming in.
Ah, okay.
So I mean, I don't know like how long you're planning on letting the like expired fobs. And I appreciate it. I'm not saying the city clerk shouldn't have focused where they were. I'm just saying, like, at what point do we want to lock that small gate? Because that's how people are getting in. People don't even try to use the fob. There's several members that do that.
It's a question of, do we want to like lock out then people that are actually members that are just sort of a victim of the computer system right now? I don't want to do that either. I would give it another week or so. It'll be set up, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, like I said, let's let the voting thing, the whole election settle down. But yeah, I think that we need to pick a date and kind of call it and let people get shocked and then have them take action, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe it's worth posting a little sign there like, oh, we appreciate your attendance, but you'll need to go to the city clerk's office to get a fob or renew your fob. You know, we apologize for the inconvenience.
I was going to suggest that too, Sarah, that some sort of a notice, a sign that would give people fair warning, or, you know, not just after the fact, but before the fact, that effective such and such a date, you will no longer have access this way.
Maybe they'll drive up memberships because all these people snuck in. They realize it's really cool, and you cut them off, and they're like, "No, I need to go back."
Right, like their dog. You do see some disappointing dogs, like when they pull in, and then there's like, oh, there's a fob and we can't go in. Like then they have to put their poor dog that's just watching all these dogs playing at the park, and they have to put him back in the car and drive away. Like, so
canine envy.
Yes, exactly. But I do think it's important that, like, and I think the handful of members that are in that kind of flux, if we give it another week and then you put the sign up that says this is locked, you'll need to go to the city clerk's office to resolve that, most will understand and take the right action.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want to go back to Aaron's first topic on the event last Saturday, and just give acknowledgement to Aaron and John and staff, and also our partners with Oakland County. Amanda and the group from Oakland County were just tremendous putting that event together. I wish we'd had more media there for that part of it and the VIPs, but it came off very, very well. Unfortunately, I had to leave at 12:30. I just physically couldn't keep up anymore. How was the turnout after that? Was it steady all the way through the 2 hours?
Yeah, it really was. And by the way, thank you, Mike. That's right. You did volunteer time there, so I appreciate that. There was a number of volunteers. So excuse me, I forgot to thank you directly.
Oh, that's.
But yeah, no, it did.
That's like my baby, Aaron. I was with that thing from the beginning, and to see it get at least this far is I'm very proud of it, and everybody that's contributed along the way. It was nice to see Greg Rassel. Greg made it, and we all know that he's got some challenges right now, but I'm glad he was able to be there, because without Greg and even Todd and others that were involved in the very, very beginning, they kept the task force on task.
Quite the task, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We have many bags too, so if you guys want any extras, come see me.
So not everybody that signed up showed up, I take it.
Yeah, but just John's not putting him in his truck and taking him anywhere, are you, John? You got to come.
No, definitely not.
I have a couple of little neighbor kids that were disappointed they couldn't get in on the sign up. I might come over and get a couple bags for them.
Got him.
Commissioner Macy.
So I actually want to go back to the middle topic. I want to know, can I screen share and show the images of Lawson and Franklin Park, because it looks incredible. Is that okay? Is it okay?
Yep.
All right.
Can you share, or do we got to allow you to share? Is it the green?
I think I can, because I'm a panelist.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay. So, all right. So this is Lawson, right? And
Yes.
look, so this is like, you can see the basketball court they got going in, and then look at this huge, awesome play structure, which there's a better picture of in a second. And then this, like, they have the renovated baseball field with benches, this lawn area, and then down here, this outdoor fitness area. And then see, like, up here at the top where that, we decided that after much debate, that we're not going to improve that road, but we are adding handicap parking. I'm like so blown away by, and then the pavilion, I didn't even show. Look at the little pavilion. You see this over here on the left? I just am so thrilled. I mean, I felt like this body spent a lot of time on this. We heard a lot of citizen comment. We tried to take it all into account, and I just am totally thrilled and blown away by how amazing this looks. And then this is Franklin. So remember, we have the tennis court. And then I also don't remember, like in previous park design, I don't remember saying so many additional like plantings. Like, it's like, we're not just doing the play structures, like the whole park is being like gorgeously redesigned. So like there's these pathways that go between them, and then some plantings. I'm so beyond thrilled with how everything looked. And then this is the play structure. And there's like another one of those huge slides. Where did the slide go? Look at this.
That's 3 stories tall.
I mean, I want to play on this thing. Like,
We should have a team outing.
And remember, this is exactly what we were saying, is that we wanted something that would be for some older, like it would skew towards the older kids. Like there was this, we heard from residents that there were some older kids there and some younger kids, and we wanted structures that would handle the careful deal with both. And I think, anyway, when this came up in the agenda, I was just amazed, blown away. And look, see, and then they have these little examples of the things that they're going to be planting here, although this is, I think, for the berms, but still. Anyway, many kudos to the team for getting this done. I'm so thrilled with it and how it looks.
Commissioner Macy, I think there's only one of those play structures at Lawson Park, and I think it's not even in the country. I think it's out of the country.
Really?
So I think we're going to be one of the only ones that have. It's 3 stories, if not taller, and that thing has a footprint. It's massive, and that basketball court has a Versa court, so it's like it's not your typical concrete. It's like a padded surface, but still plays like a concrete court, and it's just a little bit more durable. It's easier to maintain. So it's good. The Lawson Park is going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. Like, people are going to be like, forget Normandy Oaks. I'm going to go see Lawson. I mean, it's incredible. Like the dollars really stretched to give us everything we wanted. And don't worry, my expectations for next year are low.
Okay, no worries at all.
What is the timing for those, Don?
Spring.
Awesome.
Just a comment. I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. During coronavirus, I remember we discussed those park people actually raked the volleyball court and banging their nets and using it, which was the first that we've ever seen. And the basketball court, has been getting a lot of use. And then just a question about the pavilion. I love that it's steel because in Detroit, there's older ones that are, I don't know what material they are, but there's like holes in the roof at one in Clark Park. So I don't think this will happen here. And I was just wondering, is there a reason the benches are outside the pavilion and not underneath it?
Those are grills and like
You don't
staging.
want to sit on those. Never mind.
Those black pieces are grills and like a table, like a staging table.
Okay. Awesome.
Right. Do you have any other comments or questions for department reports? Oh, perfect. Moving on to item number 6, which is items not on the agenda. Anybody have anything that they want to discuss that's not included on this evening's agenda? Perfect. Moving on to item number 7, which is upcoming events. Hey,
Yeah, so the senior center, kind of similar to the curbside chicken shack meal, which they had an awesome turnout. They had 114 meals that people signed up for, so which is awesome. Aaron and I were out there, as well as Paige Gombarski and Aaron Cook. They did an excellent job organizing the event. All of their staff, they did an excellent job organizing the event and promoting it, and the turnout was awesome. So now they're going to be doing a Thanksgiving curbside meal handout. And that's going to go on November 17th, 11:45 to 12:45. So if you guys are interested in doing that, the date and time, and we'll see you there.
Perfect. Do I have a question for something not on the agenda, actually? Commissioner Macy, do you know if the appointments committee has met?
So Melanie Hollis also runs the appointments committee. So it has not been a great time for Melanie Hollis, the city clerk, to be, but as Aaron said, I think that's coming up soon. So we should have met already, but it's just, it's been really, 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 really busy in the city clerk's office.
Super understandable, for sure.
Tim, I was going to bring this up, and I kind of forgot, so I'm glad you brought this up. But next December's meeting, we're going to have Joseph Murphy present CDBG projects for 21, 22. Next year.
I want a 4-story playground structure.
Oh, I have
the Eiffel Tower.
I have an idea for this one. I think you're gonna like, Commissioner Macy. I think you're gonna like it. And the golf course or the golf center may have something that they want to put on the agenda. So those are going to be voting items. So it's imperative that we have a quorum. And right now we have some members that are not on it. So we do need to, as soon as we get an appointments committee and bring in new members or bring in any members per se, that's going to be important. But talking about December's meeting, it's going to be important that we have a quorum because we're going to have actionable items. So that should be December 3rd.
Or all 5 of us here today have to super promise to be here in December.
Pinky promise.
I have one more thing. Aaron, I had spoken to you maybe 6 weeks ago, and I don't even remember where it was, about that patio area at the golf course clubhouse and what we could possibly do there very cost effectively, just leveling that area before we built any kind of deck or anything. It would make that area more user friendly for the post golf, crowd that could sit out there. Right now it's about a 45-degree angle when you step out that door, and you're sitting in those chairs and leaning forward. But it wouldn't really cost a heck of a lot. Half the guys on the golf league that I'm in are from DPS, so they said, hey, just give us the go ahead. They'll move the dirt around. We could probably grab some dirt from another, sparsely used area of the golf course, level that out, throw some mulch or 5-bar on top of it, and it become a much more user-friendly area for the golf course.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, and I do recall us talking about that. They hadn't had the ability to get around to doing that as of late, and right now they're in leaf season. So I don't know before the end of this fall at this stage, but they can still add that material after the end of leaf season, depending on how the weather is. But John and I were also sort of kicking around some ideas that this is the sort of thing that will come up as well during CIP, because even if it's not a large-scale project, there might be some improvements that come at more of a cost than just a little bit of dirt. And we want to make sure we make that consideration and include that in our capital improvement plan request this year.
If we could build a nice deck out there, that would be ideal. But in lieu of that, I think just leveling that area would be terrific and make that more user-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Commissioner Macy?
I was going to ask John about, for the Facebook page, if you could throw something out about park cleanup possibilities. It's probably too late now, but I think we had talked about, like, we don't actually have to do much for that, but if people wanted to clean up around their park, or they wanted to have a volunteer day coming up, I don't know if we've missed our chance, but I feel like we could throw something out there like, this is how to do it. Contact the city and we'll provide the bags and pick them up after you're done. And then when you were talking, it made me think that could you also throw out a recreation Parks and Rec Facebook page thing about we need new members for this board, so with a link so that people know to sign up.
Definitely do that. All right. Anything else not on the agenda, or any other events to discuss this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion by Commissioner Macy. Looks like a second by Mr. Rapinski. Again, I'll go through roll call in the order everyone appears on my screen. Ms. Chow?
Aye.
Ms. Kinninger?
Aye.
Mr. Rapinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Macy?
Bye.
And myself, I vote aye as well. Thank you, everybody.
Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
Guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Guys,
Bye.